Hello. Ah, there you are. So, well, me and Karen, will you say hello and just introduce yourself, and we'll just say hello to everybody. Get started.
Me first? I think I've met virtually most of you, but hey, I'm Kieran. I'm Corinne's daughter. I live in San Diego. I'm an acupuncturist and have a pretty decent background in yoga, asana, and philosophy. Did most or a lot of the trainings that my mom has done. We did them together. If anything, I just feel really honored that my mom asked me to co-host here. I am just as new to this topic, maybe even newer to it than some of you, based on how much yoga philosophy you've studied. My book just arrived in the mail yesterday, and I kind of skimmed through it very sleepily. I'm really excited though. I'm here more in a co-host role, kind of like in an administrative way. So I'm basically here so if like you guys have questions, we ask that you use the raise hand function. So that's what I was investigating earlier. If you navigate to the participants button, there should be a raise hand there. So I'll be in gallery view, kind of paying attention to who has a question. Corinne, my mom, has kind of expressed that she wants to run this lecture style and to reserve the discussion for like the last 20 minutes of class, but especially because there are 20 participants, even if not all those 20 are here today, to respect everyone's time and keep it to 60 minutes, it could get difficult if people were chiming in left and right, but we want to hear everyone's voices. Mom really values that kind of discussion. So I will be kind of taking note of who puts their hand up, kind of like on a first come, first serve. And if you want to also ask your questions in the chat, you may type them in there or like raise your hand and type it in your own notes, and then we'll open it up for that. However, we won't really be referencing the chat for the lecture. That'll be like a look at it afterwards and answer the questions. Yeah, I'm excited. I love delving deeper into my mom's yoga philosophic brain and also into yoga philosophy. And I'm excited to share and exchange ideas with everybody. Thanks.
Terry, you want to say hello?
Hello, everybody. I think I've met most of you. And Leah, I certainly haven't seen you in a long time. Nice to see you down there. This is great. I'm a friend of Corinne, as everyone knows, and I'm a yoga teacher too. I've had my 500 hours, all of which I've done with Corinne as my teacher. And I live in Costa Rica. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here because it's a subject in Tantra that I've been interested for a while. I've read a little bit about it, but I've never really gone deeply into it. So I'm really excited to be here and to see where the journey leads us all. And yeah, good.
Thank you, Terry. Azadeh?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Azadeh, and I see that everybody's in a summer mood, but here in Berlin it's raining and it's kind of cold, but it's really good to feel your warmth and to be here in the circle. Yes, I'm also a yoga teacher, and I had the privilege to be in Costa Rica and do my 500 hours with Corinne last year. And since then, I really got motivated to read more, especially on the philosophy of yoga. And I think this is really a great time to dive deeper with the resources that we have in this time. And I'm very grateful that we come together for this very exciting topic, the goddesses, and just looking forward to the journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Azadeh. Annette?
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm not a yoga teacher. I'm not a teacher, but I live in Costa Rica, and I studied yoga for many years in Bermuda with some wonderful teachers. And one of the areas that was of real interest to me was the philosophy. Because I am a student of philosophy, period, you know, regardless. For me, philosophy is about perception, but it is a global perception. I think that every philosophical belief system has a view of the truth, and that if I want to study truth, then I need to look at all of those perceptions and knit them together to make a whole, not just glom onto one and say, that's me, no, or me, there's no such thing, but really because the way people see things is a reflection of their truth, the truth of reality. So that's why I decided to do this course, and so where I am coming from in terms of my reactions to it. My name's Annette.
Thank you, Annette, and thank you for bringing up that word perceptions. We're going to see that over and over again as we explore the 10 wisdom goddesses. Leila.
Hi, I'm Layla. I'm in Cyprus, and it's been pretty hot here. I think yesterday we reached 42. And the great thing about Zoom is you only need to dress from the waist up. So fortunately, you don't need to see that there's nothing else going on. I just kind of ran upstairs and took a cold shower and threw on a shirt. And I'm really happy to be here, to be connecting with you all and these beautiful faces on one of my favorite topics. And had the pleasure to study with Corinne, gosh, years ago. You know, I just love the way you present information and what you share. So I'm really happy to be here and excited for what I'm going to learn during this course. Thank you for having me.
Barbara? Wait.
Good morning, I'm Barbara. I know most of you. I'm across the valley from Corinne here in Costa Rica, and I'm a student of yoga of Corinne's for several years. I was fortunate enough to travel with her to India, and we studied together. So this for me is beautiful. It's an ongoing study. I was part of the Bhagavad Gita group with her. Constantly challenging my mind, and I think Corinne challenges most of us in lots of areas. So I feel privileged to be part of this group of women this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Leah, so good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, of course. It's actually Leah. It's been a while since we've seen each other, Corinne, so it's okay. But I actually, back in 2015, I went down to Costa Rica and got to do my 300-hour with Corinne, and I adore her, as all of you do, I know. So she's wonderful, and I'm very excited to be able to join this. And I haven't done very much study on this topic specifically, but goddesses keep coming up into my field lately. So I know this is perfectly timed for what I should be doing right now. So I live in Utah, and it's still pretty warm. I'm like mourning that summer's leaving me. I'm not excited about the cold coming at all. So maybe you guys down in Costa Rica will get to see me soon. I'll just show up on your doorstep. Let's see. But I'm very excited to be here and to be learning this. And I actually invited my friend Gentry. She just popped on as well. So I invited her last night, and I'm very excited to have her here too.
Great. Thank you, Leah. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. Gentry, hello. Please introduce yourself. Good to see you.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Sorry, I got a little bit of a late start this morning. But no, I was just talking to Leah last night, and I guess I would say more on like the beginning of my journey is with the yoga and just kind of getting more in touch with my spirituality. So I'm super excited to be here, and it's lovely to meet all of you ladies.
No, thank you. It's wonderful to have you. Thank you, Gentry. All right, Ariel is coming. She's going to join us as soon as she can, she said, and probably my sister, supposed to be here. So Kieran wanted to express her gratitude and thankfulness for the donations that have come in. And remember, it's perfectly, it's all on a volunteer basis if you can, or not, please, it's more important that you're joining us. But she wanted to describe for you the volunteer work that she does for the underserved populations in San Diego. So Kieran, I'll give you the floor again.
Yeah, I just wanted to, like Mom said, express gratitude and also maybe provide a little bit of like clarification and details around what those donations are going towards. Basically, with everything that's been happening in the United States since I think it was May 28th with George Floyd, the Black man who was killed by the police in the United States, which is not a topic we have to get into, but it's one that I felt very called to as a woman of color practicing in the wellness industry in the United States. So I've aligned with some communities that have organized really well, and once a month we're providing a pop-up wellness clinic to the underserved communities, BIPOC, so Black and Indigenous people of color in San Diego. And it's been a really great way for me and my community to feel like we're participating in the change. And so you're paying it forward with your donations towards that cause. It is indeed an underserved community that isn't getting, these are humans and individuals that aren't getting the healthcare that they are very much a human right to them. And so these pop-up clinics really provide a lot of care and attention to them. So that helps me buy supplies, you know, acupuncture needles and cupping supplies, and also just keep the pop-up clinic going, and beverages, you know, LaCroix for us as practitioners, just things like that to make it a sustainable movement. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. All right, so let's just get started. So as Karen said earlier on, we encourage questions and discussions, which we will get to at the end of each presentation. And I'm really hoping that our exploration will be one of discussion and a lot of different perspectives being thrown in there. We have such a diverse group of people here with different life experiences that I think it will really enrich our discussion. However, today there's a lot of material that I need to present. So this day will be a little heavy, more on me talking and presenting, but I'm hoping in the future it'll be more evenly divided in our discussions. So when we look at Tantra Yoga, and specifically exploring the wisdom and the knowledge of the goddesses, we can approach this from a very academic and intellectual point of view, or we can approach it from a viewpoint of how can I transform and refine my own meditation practice or my own yoga practice. We can also look at Tantra Yoga and the 10 wisdom goddesses from a macro cosmic viewpoint, looking at the whole universe, how it works, the processes, the evolution, the devolution of the universe. And we can also look at from a very personal and intimate point of view, which is our perception in our meditation practice. So as I was developing this workshop, my mission or my goal, the thought behind it was to help us all expand our perceptions and how we experience a yoga practice. The references, the book, I love this book, Tantric Yoga by Dr. David Frowley. Karen and I were first introduced to him in 2012 when we did our second teacher training. The other reference that I cross-referenced a lot with is Inside the Yoga Sutras by Jagannath Carrera. He has a wonderful interpretation of the sutras. I really enjoy reading his. Third reference is this beautiful book on yantras. Now this book is a bit technical, it's full of a lot of jargon, but once you get past that, the information is beautiful and the illustrations are really lovely. I also used another book by David Frowley, which if you studied with me, you've seen this. This is the Mantra Yoga and Primal Sounds. This book really gives you the support and information you need to understand the symbolism behind the mantras which are individual to each goddess. Why do we study philosophy to begin with? Why don't we just jump right in and say, let's look at the image of goddesses. Well, if we just look at the image of Kali with her red tongue hanging out and her sword in her hand and she's standing on a corpse, it just gives us a small picture of what's really going on. And we want to look at not only the obvious symbolism, but the hidden and subtle symbolism in our study of the 10 wisdom goddesses. It's akin to going into a Catholic church and seeing the ritual of Holy Communion, the ritual and statuary all over the place. But if we don't understand that the Catholic religion is predicated on the idea of the Holy Trinity, then we just have a small snapshot and we don't get a full picture. And so then how can we refine our practice? Yoga, in all traditions of yoga, is defined as the practice itself and the destination. It's a journey and it's a goal. It is the merging of your individual consciousness with that of the universal consciousness. The universal consciousness is called the Para Atman. The individual consciousness is called the Jiva Atman. I bring this up because as you do further studies in yoga, you're going to see these words. You'll see them in the Vedas, the writings within Samkhya philosophy and Tantra philosophy, Kundalini. You're always going to see Para Atman and Jiva Atman. The framework of individual consciousness and the consciousness, the universal one, that what's supporting that are the evolution and devolution, or the descending, the ascending of the elements that make up Mother Divine or nature, and these are called tattvas. In addition, you have consciousness, which is called chit, being, which is called sat. So here we have a nice little diagram. And you may want to take a screenshot of this and have this by your side as you go through your studies this month, because it will come in handy. The reference is Dr. Sumit Kesakar. This guy gives incredible YouTubes. He is a student of Ayurveda, and he speaks very well and has wonderful illustrations. So let's just quickly go through it. And don't worry if it's new material to you, because we're going to come back to this over and over again. And it all makes sense once we start looking at the more subtle symbolism within the goddesses. Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is the universal consciousness. Prakriti is Mother Divine. As we look at how this universe was formed, we had consciousness here, we had Mother Divine here. The first attribute or evolute was Mahat. That's just a word for universal intelligence. And I like to think of it as a seed pod. So think of an oak tree, an acorn. Inside that acorn is all the intelligence, all the potential, all the energy to grow up into a huge, big oak tree. So the same thing here in Mahat is all the potential intelligence and energy and creation and transformation to create this universe. That beautiful potential energy, the next evolute that follows is Ahamkara. This is just a word for universal division and duality. So we start to have forms and names and objects. That's from a macro universal point of view. From an individual point of view, from a man, we can say that's your ego. That's your separate identity. From there, we have Sattva, Raja, Tama. Simply qualitative energies. We're going to go into that later. Don't worry about it. Let's go to number 5, manas. That's another word for mind. So now we're looking at just the human body itself. We have the mind. Then you have the organs, the sense organs. They call them indriyas. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, skin. Why is this important, you say? Because when we start looking at the symbolism of the goddesses, you're going to see the big red tongue hanging out, maybe 3 eyes, 4 arms, things like this. So we want to be able to relate it back to some philosophical construct. So you have the mind, you have the physical sense organs, you have the physical organs of actions, your hands, your feet, your speech, the organs of elimination, the organs of reproduction. Now let's go over to 16 through 25, the Tanmatras and Bhutas. These are the subtle potential creative forces, and they are called sound, touch, form, flavor, smell, and then the elements. And if you've studied doshas or yoga, you've seen this before: ether, air, fire, water, earth. But this is on a really subtle potential energetic point of view, rather than the gross manifestation of air and earth and fire. We're coming back to this, but let's keep going right now. Frowley beautifully summarizes and pairs the 10 goddesses into 5 groups, 5 pairs. So here we see Goddess Kali and Chinnamasta as time and transformation. And we can look at that from a very obvious or gross manifestation or subtle manifestation. Same thing with Goddess Tara Matangi, which represent the word, so speech. But we just saw in the diagram before, speech is sound, potential sound, and actual speech. Tripura Sundari and Kamal is short for Kamalatmika, is beauty, obvious beauty, hidden beauty. Goddess Bhuvaneshwari and Dhumavati represent space, where everything is happening. Vaivari and Bagalamukhi represent energy, and we saw the different energies already in Sattva, Raja, and Tama. So there can be great energy, potential energy, and stillness, but also movement when it's more obvious. So understanding, again, how that diagram works and how meditation works helps us understand the goddesses. When you talk about Tantra, you cannot escape talking about dualism and non-dualism. Dualism simply means if there's hot, there's cold. If there's up, there's down. That's the obvious interpretation. The more subtle interpretation in philosophy, when we're talking about yoga, is, are Purusha and Prakriti the same, or are they separate entities? Even though the destination is the same, where we start out can be a little different. Now, Tantra is strongly non-dualistic. So it views Prakriti and Purusha, consciousness and Mother Divine, is simply 2 sides of a different coin. But all this is predicated on the belief that man is not just a physical being. He's not just his mind. Remember, we saw manas. He's not just his willpower or the physical body. He is a consciousness. The consciousness of man can stand alone by itself. However, the physical body is completely inert without the consciousness. The concept now of man and this life experience, how we perceive that, we can perceive it as bound by the limits of time and space and our own perceptions that are limited, our limited intellect. Or we can perceive it as unbound, this life and this construct, this carbon unit that I am, I can perceive of it as completely unlimited, not limited or bound by concepts of time and space and the laws of nature, Mother Nature, Prakriti. Nature is Prakriti, the supreme consciousness is Purusha. Let's look at Mother Divine or Prakriti a little bit more now. Prakriti is made up of the subtle energies, all the experiences, all the forms, all the objects that are here in creation. That is Prakriti. Prakriti also holds the seeds of all potentialities. Remember Mahat in the diagram, that universal intelligence? Prakriti is described as the subtle power of Mother Divine because she's not only the gross manifestation of trees and rocks and people and water and air and space and fire here on earth, but she's the subtle power behind all of that. She's known as Shakti. So when you do more investigation, you'll see the Shakti principle and the Shiva principle. Shakti is female, Shiva is the male or pure consciousness, Shiva. Another way to look at the Shakti principle is that she's described as manifestation, transformation, creating that which nurtures us, preserves, and guides. And that will come out when we look at the individual goddesses. Mother Divine, let's look at her a little bit more. The reason why I'm going into such detail now, because as we look at the goddesses and we will look at them from different points of view and more subtle points of view, this will all make sense. So Prakriti is made up of the gunas. Remember the diagram? We saw Sattva, Raja, and Tama. So the Sattva quality is harmony, can be described as harmony. The Raja is described as turbulence, but I also like to think of it as the catalyst, the energy of a catalyst to make things move, a transformation. Tama represents resistance, stability. All three of these energies and these qualities go into creating man. Now, man has three bodies, according to this philosophy. He has the physical body, the energy body, and the karmic body. Why is this important to know and differentiate? Because when we look at the symbolism of the goddesses, we can perceive it and act upon it in our meditation practice or just in our perspective on life from three different points of view. So let's look at this a little more closely. The physical body of man. The physical body of man is called the Sthula Sharira. So students of Ayurveda, this will be familiar to you. It includes the 5 sense organs. Remember that diagram. Ear, eye, tongue, nose, and skin. 5 organs of action. Speech, hands, feet, organs of elimination, and organs of reproduction. The 5 elements, these are the gross elements. Ether, air, fire, water, earth. The mind is part of the physical body. The Sthula Sharira is energized by the energies of the doshas. Again, this one phrase is not so important unless you're a student of yoga and Ayurveda and you want to delve deeper into this interreaction and relationship of the doshas and the physical body. What is important to note is how we experience the physical body is through the waking state of consciousness. That's important. The waking state of consciousness, because remember right from the very beginning, we're talking about perceptions. So how do we perceive life? The physical sheath of man is through the waking state of consciousness. The energy body of man is called the Sukshma Sharira. This is made up of the same elements as the physical body, but on a more subtle level. So it's not the ear as much as the quality and the energy of hearing and expression. So it's the same tattvas, but on a subtle level. Here we also include the pranas. Pranas are winds. It's an energy. There are 5 winds: apana, samana, prana, vyana, udana. Because it's more subtle than the physical body, this is where the chakras exist. The Hindu system of chakras, the subtle energy centers along the spine. So that means there are chakras, the energy of the kundalini is here, the whole nadi system and marma system, if you studied Ayurveda, that is here within the subtle body of man. How do we experience the sensations of the subtle body, it's through the dream state of consciousness. Dream state of consciousness, through visions, when we're in a trance. This is when we are in the energetic body of man. And this is how we can also understand our meditation practice devoted to some of the specific attributes of the goddesses. Here also the ahamkara, which is the ego, the buddhi, which is the mahat. Oops, sorry, I'm in karana. The karmic body, the third one, is the karana, body of man. So this is even more subtle. This is the potential and creative energies that help to have the grosser manifestations of the energy body and the physical body. So you see how we have 3 different realms, 3 different levels, and this will be repeated again and again in different ways. So this is the power of your thought, the power of your perception, to see even more subtle symbolism behind 3 eyes on one of the goddesses, or behind the goddess with 4 arms holding a severed head in her hand, or the goddess with the 3 fountains of blood coming out of her head. So we can also meditate and understand that symbolism more through the subtle energetic body of man. Here, the Tanmatras and the Bhuttas are represented in this body, the karana body. And this is more in a deep sleep. In yoga, they call it the deep sleep, that state of consciousness that you realize the third body. The Tanmatras and the Bhuttas, again, this is just to say that they are the potential energy. They are the causal energy, the thought energy behind everything that follows, the gross manifestations. All right, here we go back to our original diagram, and you can see in red, this makes up the physical body, the mind, sense organs, and organs of action. Then in the blue, that's the subtle energy, pranic body. It's the same elements, same tattvas, but on a more subtle level. And at the most subtle level, at the causal level, we have the karana, the karmic body. And that includes the mahat and ahamkara. Now, how does that relate to the 5 koshas? The 5 koshas are the 5 sheaths of the human body. You have the Annamaya kosha, which is the physical body, which is made up of the Sthula Sharira, remember? Then the Pranamaya, Manamaya, and Vijnanamaya koshas make up the third body, the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, the subtle energetic body. Then you have the Annamaya kosha, which is the most subtle of all, which is made up of the Karana Sharira. Again, this is important because we're going to look at different goddesses that are the rulers of the 3 worlds, the rulers of the 3 different states of consciousness that man can experience. So, all together, Mother Divine, Shakti, the 10 wisdom goddesses are all represented by Prakriti, which encompasses everything in red here. The seed of potentiality, the power in Mahat, Ahamkara, the sense of separateness, division, ego, and then all your sense organs, gross and subtle. So Mother Divine now can be expressed through all these qualities that we've talked about or hinted at. So Kali is known as the goddess of yogic transformation. Now, without going into it too much, because that'll be for tomorrow, when we think of transformation, you can look at transformation as just very physical on the gross level of food growing in the body and being transformed into nutrients, which feeds the physical body. You can look at yoga transformation as the actual transformation of subtle energies and potentialities within your own body, and how that can transform or transcend your perceptions of how you live your life and how the sensations you're feeling. Goddess Tara is called the saving word. So we're talking about speech here, subtle and manifest. Tripura Sundari is the beauty of the three worlds. Okay, there we are, three again. We can look at waking, dreaming, and deep sleep states of consciousness. We can look at the world as manifest or unmanifest. Bhuvaneshwari is the queen of the universe. So she's the queen of all the elements. She has dominion over all of everything that is here. Vaivari is the warrior goddess. Again, that's really interesting. Just the wording, because we do live in a world of duality, we can think of warrior as battling over what? Or do we look at her as shock and awe? So there's many different interpretations. Chinnamasta, the consciousness beyond the mind. So remember, Tantra, the whole philosophical construct, is built upon, is premised on that man is consciousness. He's not just his physical body. He's not just his mind. So what's the state of consciousness level of existence beyond that? Dhumavati, the grandmother spirit. I'll leave that for later. There's a very interesting symbolism there. Bagalamukhi, the hypnotic power of the goddess. Matangi, the utterance of the divine word. Again, speech, but a different perspective, another way to look at speech and sound and hearing and expression as opposed to Tara. Kamalatmika, the lotus of goddess of delight. So what is bliss? What does delight mean in terms of Tantra, in terms of yoga and our own meditation practice? Dr. Frowley also relates the goddesses in terms of what he calls the prime principles of life. So as we experience life, he describes the goddess Kali as time, the passage of time. What does time mean? On a gross level and a subtle level. Goddess Tara, word. We spoke about it just a little bit from the last slide. Speech, thought, expression, the potential, the thought process, causal potential behind word. Goddess Tripura Sundari is light, illumination, knowledge, the sun. There's so many ways, right? So many different ways, the symbolism of light. Goddess Bhuvaneshwari is space, the void. What does that mean? Goddess Bhairavi is energy. Okay, remember we talked about energy in terms of sattva, tama, raja, the energy of transformation. So each one of these goddesses embodies a whole diverse and varied qualitative aspect of these 5 principles of life. Here we have another way of looking at the goddesses that David Frowley gives to us, and that is that they are powers of transformation and transcendence. In yoga, in the philosophy of yoga and Tantra, they talk a lot about transforming our perceptions so that we can transcend the limitations of this physical body and experience life through the Sukshma Sharira, remember that was the energetic body, and even the causal body, the karmic body. So here we can look at Goddess Chinnamasta as perception, Goddess Bhuavati as the void, Goddess Bagalamukhi as stillness, Goddess Matangi as knowledge, and Goddess Kamala as delight. And all these words have really, really deep meanings from a yoga point of view. I really forget who said it, but it was in one of the sutras. And in the Gita, I think it's also expressed that a yogi is a person who can see life and death and life. And that's something that we will be exploring also. I am following the lead of Dr. David Frowley in the presentation of the workshop by pairing up goddesses and looking at how they symbolize these prime principles of life. So tomorrow we will be talking about Goddess Kali and Chinnamasta because they represent time and transformation and how those two intersect and work together. It can help change and inform and refine our perceptions of life and meditation. Goddess Tara and Matangi represent the word. Okay, we've spoken about that, and that may be easier to understand than space and void because we know word. Word is expression, communication, interaction, thought, mind, perceptions. Goddess Tripura Sundari and Kamal, beauty. How do we view, what is our perception of beauty from a cosmic point of view and a micro point of view? Goddess Bhuvaneshwari and Dhumavati, they represent space. And remember, Dhumavati is the grandmother spirit. And lastly, Bhairavi and Bagalamukhi, which represent energy. Energy in motion and energy in stillness. In a big summary, you can say that Mother Divine, Prakriti, she embodies wisdom and the energy of consciousness. That's important. The energy of consciousness. That is Mother Divine. That is what is embodied in the very diverse and rich attributes of each of the 10 wisdom goddesses. So I would ask Kieran to open up our discussion, please, for any questions you may have to this point.
So in the chat, there was some administrative stuff. Leah would like you to send the PowerPoints, Mom. But you know what? Let's talk about that stuff afterwards because Terry had something having to do with content. Is Bhairavi the same as Durga?
Durga is, I'm not going to say definitive yes or no, okay, Terry? Because I have read so many things. Kali is Durga, Tara is Durga, that I cannot definitively say because I've seen it in so many different ways. I think, to be honest, if you look at Tantric Yoga and the 10 wisdom goddesses, they don't mention Durga. Durga is a Hindu goddess. So if you're looking at it from a Hinduism point of view, you may find connections and interrelationships with the Tantric perspective on the 10 goddesses. But these 10 goddesses are also known as the Dasha Mahavidyas. So Tantric Dasha Mahavidyas. If you want to Google that or in your books, that's a whole chapter in itself, which is different from the more ubiquitous Durga of Hinduism. That's all I can say.
Okay, well, that's all the questions that came in through the chat, but if anybody would like to unmute.
Well, then, could we do this? Could we just go through through the people and you just name each person and they can have the floor and give their comments, questions, or from their own life experience if they have something they want to say right now?
Sure, yeah. And with that, I think I'd like to add, I'm just so excited about all this because I find that I really like the wording that comes from Taoism, and it's so fun to see like the Taiji, which is the one, and how that first gets split into duality with yin and yang, and then all the many ways that yin and yang keeps splitting, and how coming back to the non-duality, getting back into the void, and going from the feminine yin receptivity, and how you need that interdependence with the yang potential, the masculine potential. That's where this reality around us comes from. So that's what I'm enjoying, is drawing the parallels between these two Eastern traditions. But going in order, Terry, would you mind sharing? If you have anything to say, you're unmuted now.
Not right now. I'm
Great.
just listening. I don't have anything. Nothing right now, sorry.
Okay, thanks. We're gonna keep going because just in case anyone has anything to say or share. Annette, would you like to share anything at this time? Let's see, you're muted, and it looks like with you, I have to ask to unmute your mic. Still muted. How about Mom, if anyone wants to say something, they can just like raise their hand at this point. But yeah, Annette, you're still muted. I'd love to hear what you're trying to say.
Okay, hold on.
There you are.
All right. So, you know, my laptop is actually making sure that we both want me to be unmuted, but then my iPad knows me better than the rest of you. So yeah, being a little bit more pragmatic and moving out of the spiritual and out of the yogic, I find myself seeing primarily the early stages of evolution in terms of the ova, which is then joined with the male energy, and then enters into a process of meiosis, and then subsequently into a process of mitosis, which then leads to differentiation, which ultimately leads to life as we know it. And at what point does life actually start, or consciousness actually start? So yeah, a very, like I said, it's an interesting way of looking at reality. The fact that we do go from a single cell, the potential, which is then fertilized to to go on a journey of differentiation, of expansion and differentiation, until ultimately we become what we'd like to believe is the ultimate expression of energy in the universe. Yeah, jury's still out on that one, but that's the process. That's what that would be the goal, that we would be a perfect expression of that. We're not. So obviously got a way to go yet.
Thank you, Annette. And let me add to that, to just what both you and Kieran have said. If you go back to that diagram, and like I said, it's a construct of creation, whether you're looking at it from a scientific physical point of view, as Annette was describing, or the Taoist point of view. Yoga, the practice of yoga is meditation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we look at this diagram and you look at the sutras and the study of the Gita, it is showing us, okay, as men, you now are manifested in the grossest form, this physical body. As you meditate, you're going to go through that diagram up. You're going to ascend. And that is what is so cool. So we can say, we can say, okay, I've started at this point where, let's say pratyahara, which is withdrawing of the senses. Okay, so right there, we're talking about the sense organs and the organs of action. I want to sit in stillness, and I want to change my perception of when I feel an itch on my nose. All right, going through the tapas of Samkhya philosophy. As I understand what an itch means, what a physical movement means, what is powering that? As I sit in stillness, I may come to that realization and feel that sensation. Okay, I understand the seed potential of movement, of energy. What's even more subtle than that? And then you go to the understanding the Tanmatras and the Bhutas, which are the most subtle elements. And from there, when let's say you're looking at a candle flame, you understand the causal energy behind the manifestation of a flame. And you keep going further and further and further back, which causes you to transform and transcend your perceptions of life to come to that emergence, as you both said, of the male and female, the universal consciousness. It's just that here we see it on paper, but this is the journey. This is a spiritual path in the tradition of Tantra, and how looking at the individual attributes of the goddesses help us understand and take that journey. Barbara, did you have something you wanted to contribute?
No, nothing right now. I'm just listening and participating. Yep.
Thank you. Azadeh?
I'd like to take some steps back, and before we start with the goddesses, talk about Tantra, because what we have all heard about Tantra, it was very focused on the sexual part, and how we find ourselves in the Tantra tradition now focusing on the 10 goddesses, and that's sort of a connection I would like to know more about.
Just as, okay, I'm not an expert on this, so this is just up to now what my knowledge is. And it's mostly based on Dr. David Frowley and his interpretation. Just as in the modern world, yoga became known as asanas, physical postures. In the modern world, Tantra became known as sexual postures. But Tantra it absolutely is the devotion and worship of the Shakti principle. And what is the Shakti principle? It is the meditation upon the divine sounds that represent the tattvas of creation. That is Mother Divine, that is Shakti. It is the mantra, and it is the divine geometric forms that you find in yantra, which we're talking about in the second half of the workshop. That is Tantra. Now, there's a lot more about Tantra. You have the black and white Tantra, different expressions of a tantric practice. But at its core, Tantra is based on divine sounds, and it is mantra. Mantra is simply the sound expression of the same vibration, which is light. What is light? Light is another beautiful vibration of the universal consciousness, the Mahat. Does that make sense or help you, guide you in a direction, Azadeh?
Yes, thank you. It did, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll continue with the book so I get more information about the philosophy of Tantra itself.
What I really like in David Frowley's book, he gives in the introduction, there's a little bit of talk about Rahamana Maharishi and Ganapati Muni. So if you research those two guys, those were great tantrics. You will learn more about a tantra practice. Okay.
Mom, can I ask a question that piggybacks on that topic?
Mm-hmm.
So it's seeming to me, like from reading the intro and then just hearing that little discussion, that there's a lot of divine femininity in the tantric tradition, but it's also about non-duality, right? So we're trying to transcend that that division between masculine and feminine, but it seems to me like there is a big emphasis on divine femininity, but then for the practice of it to be about mantra, like would that be kind of the divine masculine form of like speaking it into like creating mantra? You're using this like the Purusha in the Prakriti. Is that where it kind of becomes one? Am I diving too deep for right now?
No. And that's why I tell you, I spent years trying to figure out dualism and non-dualism, because that's what we're talking about. In the Tantric tradition, we know it's non-dualistic. So we know that they view Purusha and Prakriti as one. However, in speech, we have to speak in dualistic terms because there's always a subject, a verb, a direct object, there's always a name and a form, right? And if there's a name and a form, just On the surface, that means there's two things. But in Tantra and in the Vedas, they say that they're one. So on page 46 and 47 in the book, I love it. Frowley says that Shakti is translated as power, and Shiva, which is Purusha, is translated as peace, or consciousness, or universal consciousness, we can say. So universal consciousness, when you look at it, when you perceive it with the power, the energy of transformation, you get physical manifestation here where we live. And that's how we can perceive it. So when we talk about the feminine energy, just as when people come to a general yoga practice, they start with asanas, because you start with what you know. What do we know? We know this physical body. So we start there. When we look at Tantra and the 10 wisdom goddesses, they are framed within the female gender because we're already in a world of duality of male and female. And so there has to be differentiation, ahamkara. But as you say, it doesn't mean that it is a generic term of what female means to any one culture right now. It means that Prakriti is a reflection of Purusha, of that male energy. It's a reflection, it's a manifestation. It has the seed potentiality.
Well, and it seems to me that to like utter the mantra is to merge the two.
It's a way of merging the two. It is the physical manifestation way. Mm-hmm. Did I just say the same thing you said, but in my words?
It's a good exploration and I appreciate it.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Layla. Layla, did you have something to say? Where are you? There you are.
No, enjoying listening.
All right. Ariel, hello, welcome. Say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm late.
No, wonderful to see you. I didn't notice when you came in, but do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. All righty. I'm glad you're here. Gentry, hello.
Hello. No, I don't think I have any questions. I think this has just been really interesting to me, and I'm looking forward to, I think Leah requested the materials, so just being able to kind of dive a little bit deeper. To be honest, this is a lot of kind of new concepts for me, so I'm just looking forward to kind of learning more and being able to dive a little bit deeper into it.
Okay. Thank you, Joy. And it is for, unless you've already studied yoga and the philosophy of yoga, there's a lot of just new vocabulary besides concepts, but it all starts to make sense as we go into more of the nitty-gritties of each goddess. So hang in there. I'm glad you're here.
No, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Leah, any questions or comments?
Oh my gosh, I'm realizing how rusty I am on all of my yoga stuff. All of these terms, I was texting Gentry, I'm like, I need to do some studying. So yeah, I'm excited to just dive in a little bit deeper. And yeah, if you can send the deck that you shared today, I think that will be helpful just to be able to reference back to that. That would be awesome.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, as we saw in the Word document, I'm hoping all of you have, and we read page 1 through 6, you saw the importance of the pranava, Om. When we look at the tattvas of creation, even though Om wasn't written in there, in the text we saw that Om really is the first manifestation. Sound, as Karen referenced to. That Om represents the universal consciousness manifested. All right? So Purusha encompasses Om, but it's in pure consciousness, so it isn't yet manifested in sound. So with Mother Divine, Prakriti, the Shakti principle, that's when we first hear the very first element of manifestation is Om. And that's why that harmonious sound of Om, according to Sanskrit, according to Tantra, the philosophical construct. This informs everything else that happens. This energetic sound harmonizes everything that happens afterwards. So that is why when you do a yoga practice, we start and begin with Om. Almost every mantra, Vedic mantra, maybe not Buddhist mantra, but Vedic mantra begins and or ends with Om to harmonize these energies. So let us finish today sharing the pranava, Om, followed by Shanti, 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 which is peace. So sitting it nice and straight. Inhale our hands to heart center, if that's comfortable for you. And just one time, let us chant Om together. So take a breath in. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste, everyone. Thank you so much for a wonderful meeting of minds and souls. And I really look forward to tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to delve into the goddess Kali and Chinnamasta. So if you would read the Word document that pertains to those two goddesses. And if you have the book or you have another reference and you want to delve deeper into the subject, go ahead. Tomorrow, what I'd like to do is perhaps present in general some of my interpretations of Kali and Chinnamasta, and then let's just open wide the discussion to those two goddesses and how it, what questions you have and how it may inform your meditation practice. Oh, okay. So what I'd like to do is meet on Saturdays and Sundays, same time, and we'll record the sessions. And then Tuesday evenings, 7 p.m. Costa Rican time. And that is for if you missed one of the sessions, or if you have extra questions or discussions that were not addressed on Saturday or Sunday, we will meet then. I think I sent you a document that had a schedule of which goddess and which Word document pages to read up on for Saturday and Sunday. If you didn't get it, send me a little email and I'll send it to you again. Any other administrative questions? All right. Yay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow, I hope. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, Kieran, we have administrative things. The sharing screen didn't work.
Hey, Terry. Bye. I don't know what she said.
I saw the share screen on my side, but you didn't see it?
What are you talking about?
Oh, I thought you said that there were technical problems with the screen sharing or something.
No, someone just asked if you could send the PowerPoints out.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah. I'm going to stop recording.